Welcome to Epic Begins with One Step Forward. I'm your host, Zander, and I am delighted that you are joining me today. I wanted to start off with the thought of the day. Time blocking for progress. So important. When we want to achieve something, we really need to make sure that we put time in our schedule every day to achieve it. If it's not on your calendar, it's not real. For example, I blocked 2 hours for writing daily when I was writing Epic Begins with One Step Forward. When you protect your time with structure, it makes it so much easier. Just think about something basic like if you want to do a recipe. It's all written out. You just follow those directions and there you go. There's your structure. I say it all the time. Structure makes us feel comfortable as human beings. So put structure into whatever your epic goal is. Block 30 minutes for your dreams today so that you can spend time so you can go on your epic journey. I wanted to give you an update about one of my podcast guests, Terry M. Brown. I had her on and she did something amazing. She rode across the country on a tandem bike with her husband. And if you've ever been on a tandem bike, you know that takes a lot of coordination. That takes a lot of trust, especially for the person who's sitting in the second seat. And Terry and her husband had all kinds of fun and coordination as they rode across the USA. And that was truly an epic journey. Today, I am so excited to welcome Cassandra Houston. Cassandra, welcome and tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm Cassandra Houston, and I am a Chief Human Resources Director for TURN, which is the Utility Reform Network. But I'm also the CEO of Evolve Leadership and Development. I've been in HR for over 25 years and I love it. It's very exciting and that's been most of my career. Didn't start there. I started in accounting, believe it or not.
Wow.
And then I merged over into human resources and I loved it. So I've been in there for over 25 years.
That's great. Now, I'm old enough to know that human resources has had, that department's had many different names.
Absolutely.
Personnel.
Yes. Yes.
But most recently, human resources,
Yes.
which I think is a great description of what it is. What is it about doing human resources that really floats your boat, makes you excited to go to work?
I think it's building relationships and interacting with people and just being able to be that resource for people, being able to assist them with their needs, being able to be the voice of the employee, being the voice of the organization or the company that you work for, and bringing those two together.
Definitely. Yeah, I know people who are in HR and depending on the day, most days they like it. Like any job, there are the days where they're like, wow.
Yes, very challenging.
These employees, what were you thinking?
Absolutely. There are times when it is very challenging, but you have to know how to maneuver and how to address those challenges and be ready and pivot when you do come across those challenges.
Absolutely. And obviously, after 25 years, you have a wealth of knowledge.
Absolutely.
Wealth of experience. What would you say are 2 things that would be important for people who might need to interact with their HR departments? Because there's a lot that HR can do that employees just don't, they're unaware.
Yes, I think most people are afraid of their human resources department. You know,
That's usually good when you get called into HR,
absolutely,
Cassandra, I gotta say.
absolutely. I think people get on the defensive when they are called into the human resources department. But I think it's more important for the human resources department to build that gap and to build those relationships so that when you are, you know, called into the human resources office, it's not, you know, they're not put on the defense.
Yeah.
You know, for any reason. So I think that it's important for human resources, and it's our responsibility to build that relationship and to make the employee more comfortable being able to come to us when they have issues or when they have problems.
Absolutely. And, you know, one thing that I experienced when many years ago, I was working in a Fortune 100 company. There was a huge human resources department, which I sort of knew, but didn't know them, you know, particularly just because, well, I didn't have a reason to interact other than, what about my benefits or something? Right. But I experienced the loss of my sister. And the one thing that I look back and say, boy, I wish human resources, because they knew about this, had reached out to share with me about the EAP, the
Yes.
Employee Assistance Program, which lots of companies have.
Yes.
So, you know it better than I. So tell me what's usually within an EAP program, and how do people actually access it?
So the EAP program, Employee Assistance Program, is very accessible. And there are counseling services in there, regardless of whether it's financial or if it's for personal reasons. There are other items in there that can help you with, let's say, writing your will. But there's many different services that the employee can access that. And all they have to do is just go to their human resources department. Most human resources departments, if you've done it correctly, they should have given you information at your onboarding. And so you can easily access that. And the good thing about that is that the employer and the third party, which is the employee, the EAP, is basically separate. So the organization just contract with those.
Right.
So, but you're responsible for contacting them, and all of that information is confidential. We do not get that back to say what was the counseling about. The only thing that we get is the bill.
Yeah.
Each month, and it's like it's a set bill that we get each month. But for the most part, it's very confidential. The employee does not have to or have no need to worry about, you know, the employer knowing what was said in their counseling sessions.
Definitely. And I could say, as a mental health counselor myself, yes, it is confidential. And even if I were part of an EAP program, if the company said, "What is Cassandra talking about?" I'd be like, "I'm sorry, but I can't reveal that."
Absolutely.
And that's obviously very important, especially for counseling.
Absolutely.
And stuff. You also mentioned that you're the CEO
Yes.
of
Evolved
Leadership.
Yes.
I am interested to know more about that.
So my journey began with opening my own company. I'm quite sure that some of us have had some really great leaders. Some of us have had some really bad leaders. But my journey as an HR professional, I love facilitating. I love conducting workshops on leadership. And I want to provide a service to organizations and to the community, which my LLC is centered around organizations, companies, but it's also centered around the youth and providing leadership and development opportunities for our youth. And so this all began with my passion for leadership. And my book, Leading from Within, Leading with a Purpose, I want to let everyone know, or to show everyone, that leadership is all about what's inside, internally, not what people can see externally. It's about what people can't see. So if you have, integrity, if you have honesty, if you have that communication, relationship building, those are things that makes a leader, not just your skill set.
Definitely.
So my business is based on my book, Leading from Within, Leading with a Purpose. And so it's you, in order for you to be a great leader, you need to have purpose for leading. And leading is just not leading people, but it's leading is showing people, that you have empathy, that they can trust you. So those are the things that that my organization or that my company would like to, work with other companies to show.
Absolutely. And leadership is, oh, yes, leadership. But we don't really know what that looks like.
Absolutely.
And in my experience in working in the corporate world for 22 years, but also in doing coaching and stuff like that, is oftentimes people find themselves in a leadership position. Sometimes they've worked hard to get to it, and other times the company goes, we think, Cassandra, you're doing a great job. We're going to make you a manager. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, I have no idea how to manage.
Exactly.
And there are different types of leaders, right?
Absolutely.
And oftentimes people don't really know what their own leadership style is. Maybe they're basing it off of someone higher up than them, but that might not be your style. And like anything, trying to do something that isn't really you is so much harder. And so, with the youth and the companies, how do you help people determine what their leadership style is?
Well, first, I think the first step in being a leader is taking accountability. When we take accountability and we do a self-assessment of ourselves. So in my book, I talk about doing an assessment of ourselves, taking a self-inventory, so to speak. What are your external skills? What are your internal skills? And then having a discussion with that individual to say, okay, what is it that, what is it that I need in order to be that really great, effective leader? So I think accountability, which is doing a self-assessment of yourself, a self-assessment of your skill set, and then, having a strategy of how do I increase those skills. And it's not so much as the external skills that I talked about, but also it's more so the internal skills, because that's what drives an effective leader. The internal skills, things that our parents taught us, that we learned, growing up. Those are the things that make us a great leader. I think that all of us are born leaders. All of us are born leaders. But what we do with those skills and how we hone in on those skills and how we increase those skill set is what makes us an effective leader.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as you said, we've all had good managers.
Yes.
And not so good managers.
Yes.
And kind of like in school, you have those teachers that you remember.
Yes.
And there's probably, from a psychological standpoint, there's a reason that you say that manager, I really like that manager. That's probably because their style was close to your style. You appreciated how they led. And one thing that I think sometimes gets lost is an effective leader gets out of the way.
Absolutely.
I've managed teams, and I've always worked hard to say, I'm here to be a resource, but I got to give you room to do your thing. I can't micromanage you, because very few people actually like someone right there.
Absolutely.
Like, let me be the leader who says, I will give you the resources you need. I will be here to support you. I will help you when you need guidance. But I'll get out of the way so that you can actually do the job I'm asking you to do.
Absolutely. And I think that if you're one of those leaders that have to micromanage, what does that say about you as a leader? What does that say about you in your mentorship and how you lead? There's a difference between micromanaging someone and then being a mentor.
Right.
So I think that some people get those confused sometimes. They figure that, in order for me to mentor this person, I need to micromanage this person. But if you need to micromanage that person, then that means that person maybe is not the right person for that position, or that tells something about you as a leader.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's very disempowering to have someone constantly tell me exactly when you did this. And absolutely, look, there are the people who need a little more hand-holding.
Absolutely.
And as a leader, it's figure out how they learn.
Yes.
I spent, back in my youth, I spent 6 years teaching sailing and to kids and adults. And I learned so much that I carry forward about how to teach, how to be a leader, in the sense that I've got 4 8-year-olds in a sailboat, and they need to sail the boat. I know how to sail the boat, but I've got to somehow use my words to communicate to them, not do it for them.
Right.
How to sail this boat. And yes, when I first started, it was really hard because I knew how to do it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're gonna capsize, we're gonna crash, and stuff. But the leadership skills got developed. I had a really great manager who's like, all right, here's how to do this. And the look on anybody's face when you've asked them to do something new, it's challenging, and when they master it,
absolutely,
is that's what makes being a leader
absolutely
so much. Those are the days that are really good.
Absolutely, and it's part of the learning process. With anything, regardless of whether or not you're a child or you're grown up, that's part of the learning process. It's giving the instructions, and you have to make sure that there are good instructions if people are going to do what the outcome is that you want them to have. And so I think that giving them great instructions and then backing off and just letting them do it. If they make a mistake, try to let them figure out how to get around that mistake. And that's effective leadership. And, I want to teach that to our youth as well. I'm planning a youth leadership summit next year. And so what I want to teach kids is that, when your parents don't have to tell you to clean up your room or to take out the trash, those are leadership skills.
Yep.
When they don't have to tell you to clean your room, or if you see someone being bullied, or if you take initiative at school and you volunteering at school, those are leadership skills.
Yep.
So I want to teach our youth that, it's just not about external skills or just telling people what to do.
Yeah.
It's about taking accountability for yourself. And so those are the start of those leadership skills.
Absolutely. And one of the things I learned from not only being a sailing instructor, but I spent 17 years as a technical instructor in the corporate world. I taught people how to use software. And what I figured out was that if someone doesn't understand what I just explained to them, it's up to me to rephrase it, frankly, as many times as necessary so that they then do understand. That is the educational goal.
Absolutely.
If I'm explaining how to use some piece of software to you and I'm asking and you're like, I don't understand. Maybe I used terms that you don't understand.
Absolutely.
So let me bring it down a level. Let me bring it down a level. Oh, now you get it. Now you understand. Well, now I'm successful as a teacher, as a leader. Oh, you understand how to do the job. If you tell me, oh, sure, Zander, I know how to do that, but you actually don't.
Absolutely.
You're not going to be successful.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I truly believe that. And I truly believe that, I always talk about the leadership sandwich. And it's the 2 pieces of bread, the top part, the bottom part, which are your external skills.
Yep.
But really what makes the sandwich is what's inside.
Absolutely.
It's the filling, it's the lettuce, tomatoes, it's everything that goes on the inside. That's what actually makes the sandwich. If you just have 2 pieces of bread, it's really not a sandwich. So I always talk about the leadership sandwich when referencing effective leaders.
Absolutely. Now, congratulations on your book.
Yes.
I know it's a monumental task to
Yes.
not only write it, but actually get it out.
Yes.
What are some of the key concepts in your book?
I think one, and this is the one that I love, there's 4 pillars that I talk about in my book. And it's about the self-assessment, the self-accountability, and it talks about how, building a foundation for an effective leader. I talk about communication. I talk about the communication like the black hole, because everyone's interpretation, just like you mentioned before, how you explain something, if you have to explain something many times in order to get someone to understand it, everybody interprets things differently. In my book, I also talk about building relationships. That is key to any relationship, regardless of whether it's personal or if it's in the workplace, building those relationships. There are challenges in my book that I take you through and to help you to understand each chapter. So there's different little exercises in the book that I take you through in order for you to understand and to implement those and to kind of help sustain what you learned.
Right. The one thing, I'm going to sound like an old man here, but I'm still going there, which is that you talked about sort of the black hole of communication. And sadly, I think with all of this fabulous technology we have, there are people younger than myself, don't want to be ageist here, but younger than myself, who in the workplace do not actually have the interpersonal communication skills. And
Yes.
It is amazing what a synchronous conversation, how quickly you can actually solve a problem. And what I mean by that is actually pick up the phone or go over and talk to someone in person. And I know younger people go, oh, I hate talking on the phone. And I'm like, why? Because I can go back and forth with you, Cassandra, for 30 minutes on a text thread.
Yes.
And I could pick up the phone and probably in about 3 minutes, you and I could figure out what the challenge was. I can ask questions, you can ask questions, you can check for understanding.
Right.
I can confirm understanding. And then we're done and we get to both go on and do our thing versus, oh no. And text, sadly, misses all of the nuance of verbal communication.
Right.
There are things that we say every day, just in our communication.
Absolutely.
And the way in which we say it indicates what we mean. So I'll use like shut up, okay? And I know that, but there's, depending on how we say it, right? Like sometimes you say it because it's like a disbelief. Shut up.
Right.
Like, and you get that. I put that in a text.
Absolutely.
Maybe you think I'm telling you to be quiet, and now you're all offended, and I'm like, no.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that is the relationship. How well do you each understand the other's communication style?
Absolutely.
Very hard to get over text unless you put all kinds of additional words and explanations that verbally you don't have to do because we understand the tone that you use.
Right.
We see the smile on your face.
Right.
Or the lack of smile, right? And I know shut up isn't something that we should say, but it's a common thing that we say, and it's said in many different ways.
Right. And technology can be good, but it lacks the personal interaction. And you can type what you want to type, but you can't type emotions unless you actually type the emotions. And so
but human communication, look, we get to talk. That's really cool.
Exactly.
Okay? A huge part of that, a much bigger part than the actual words, is the nonverbal part of things.
Absolutely.
And I do see that sometimes it's lacking in people who are younger than me, perhaps people in their 20s in the workplace do not necessarily have that skill. They're afraid to come and talk to HR, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know. I mean, Cassandra's the head of HR. I mean, what am I going to say? What if I say the wrong thing? Well, so what? Maybe you do, but...
And I think that society has made people so afraid to just voice their opinions and have that interaction. And so they would rather just type it because, okay, I don't have to face the person. I don't have to, listen to the person. I don't have to listen to the feedback, and then it gives them, time to, when they see it written, it gives them time to, I guess, kind of interpret what they're saying, but the interpretation can be wrong.
Yeah.
So me personally, I feel like you do. Picking up the phone, I can solve this in 5 minutes, and having to sit there and write a whole paragraph of what the issue is, I can just call and give you, what the issue is. If I give you 2 sentences written, you may not get what I'm trying to tell you or get the message.
Or I may completely read it, depending on my own mood. I may read it as a negative commentary about me and the job I'm doing. And I maybe I get really scared and get all anxious that, oh my gosh, I can't answer back. I'm in trouble.
Right.
When in fact you were just
Absolutely.
there was no trouble, no anxiety necessary. So absolutely.
So yes, the communication is a really big piece in my book, and also I talk about the 5 love languages of the employee. What is it that my if I want to be inspired by my employer, there's things that I may need. I may need the pat on the back. I may need the constant thank you. Whereas you may need something else. So it's building those relationships, learning people and what their love languages are.
Absolutely. And it also goes to, as a leader, understanding what strengths your team has.
Yes.
And there's a great thing, the Gallup Strength Finders, which leaders should be using so they understand what their team's strengths are. Because if you have someone who is, perhaps it's not their primary role, but they're actually really good at presentations.
Yes.
Shouldn't you put that person up to do presentations? Because they probably, 1, really enjoy it, and 2, will do a very effective job versus someone who that isn't their strength.
Absolutely.
And you put them up there and it's not good. As I said, I spent 17 years teaching technical stuff, and there were engineers who were far smarter than I was, but when they do presentations sometimes, it was painful for me because that wasn't their strength. They were really smart. They could, they created these incredible programs, but actually communicating what that was not one of their strengths.
Right.
And oftentimes it came disastrous. Things like, what do you mean you don't get it? I just explained it to you.
Right.
Well, that's not good to say to a client.
Right.
It's not good to say to anyone.
Right. And I think listening not only with your ears, but listening with your heart, listening with your mind. Those are things that, I think that if we listen to our employees and listen to our staff members, we learn a whole lot about our employees that we would have never learned if we're always talking and never listening.
Absolutely.
So
how can people find you? How can they find your book? How can they hire you to come and do some leadership for them?
Sure. So Leading from Within, Leading with a Purpose is on sale on Amazon. So they can find the book on Amazon. And to get in contact with me, info@developaleader.com and on LinkedIn.
All righty. Well, Cassandra, thank you so much for coming in. Clearly, you and I have a lot more that we could have talked about.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure.
I was like, I looked up, I'm like, oh my gosh, our time is almost up. But I want to thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
So fascinating, and I really love the work that you're doing.
Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to remind everyone that if you're ready to begin your epic journey, go to epicbegins.com. And as always, remember, epic choices lead to the epic life that you want.